So you have been deeply involved with thinking about building in and innovating and pushing for these kind of frontiers focused largely on transactions and payments from two parties or two parties to each other. 10 years from now, what would payments look like for you to be happy? What would they have to look like?
I think the first thing that has to happen is we have to have a significant amount of friction in holding fiat. Totally. Fiat has to be frictioned. And it is friction to some degree, but not enough for us to use it as, or for us to not use it for payments. But we are in a phase where achieving some more value and understanding and security of crypto is still of foundational importance before we can even achieve payments.
Why should people care about the methods with which they transact?
Why should you care? You should care if it's going to save you money or save you time. I'm aligned with it ideologically because I do think that a digital money that is accessible by anyone, anywhere in the world is powerful and levels the playing field. What is interesting now is the different kinds of ideology now that are starting to come about. It's not the necessary libertarian anarchism, but it's now, okay, everything from block size debate and scaling. I'm seeing an aspect of Satoshi's vision. You're seeing that kind of religion form.
Yeah.
It's becoming very religious and having a lot of different religious pockets that in and of themselves are very ideologically strong. Now, whether or not they're good ideology or bad ideology is very subjective, but those are becoming ideologically strong as opposed to just being pragmatic. Yeah. As opposed to saying, well, is it going to make something, cheaper, faster for me?
So you don't necessarily think that decentralization is a bad thing, but you just don't think that's it.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing to keep that as the end goal, as that being like the center of the dartboard, and that's all you care about.
So what is a better center? What's a better goal? Or what is the goal that you're going towards?
That's what I was going to say, is it depends on you. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to build that's going to empower other people? And so what I mentioned early on is, what's some ideology that someone might care about? I care about giving people access to a digital money globally.
Where do you see disintermediation playing a role in the future or in today with cryptocurrencies? Are we ever going to get to a world that is truly disintermediated as we exchange value?
If you do look at intermediaries and you look at disruptive tech, almost always in history, disruptive tech doesn't necessarily eliminate, but it shrinks the intermediaries. Yeah. It did that for the internet. Yeah. So instead of having a few small handful of media companies in the world that were the intermediaries of information, now you have basically ISPs, of which there's hundreds around the world, that are the intermediaries that don't have a very strong incentive to block. The internet disintermediated that. In the same sense, we'll do the same thing with money.
So are you hopeful about the future?
So the future has generally trended to being more positive, right? It has trended to being more positive. The challenge I have is that there are definitely still strong and large pockets of suffering, but they're more hidden from everyone else. So as people in a comfortable country, like here in the US, we're hidden from a lot more of the challenged areas, the developing countries. Even though the internet is giving us more access to it, we're kind of put in our matrix more successfully than would be before. Where you could sit on the top of the castle, but you're walking through the peasants all the time of extreme poverty. So making that very transparent and flattening it, more so flattening it, is something that we trend to over time, is flattening the hierarchy. And the last piece of flattening, I think, is money. Like we've flattened a lot of large industries, information, media, and the last piece we just haven't done is money. And now that money and politics are so heavily tied, when you flatten one, you flatten the other. So it's not that the future is dark and it's getting darker. I think the future is actually trended to being more positive. More people are in a comfortable state of being. There's less wars. There's still wars. A lot of people die, but the numbers are an order of magnitude smaller than in the dark ages. And now it's just about continuing that trend and finding the disruptive tech that makes you take this extra leap in flattening that pyramid. And I think crypto is that next tech that gets us there.
That's great. Well, Paul, thank you so much for your time and for
thanks for having me.
Excellent answers to these great questions. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Caleb. Take care.